at 1:30. So when I get back in the house, I'll look at cutting those.
Cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake. Not one rice bread. Not one crush. Not a bit of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo. Take time on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up. We ain't giving up no dream.
Welcome to Facing the Nation for the 21st of July, 2023. Let me start out by apologizing to my viewers. I know it's been a while, but there are a lot of things that were happening. And of course, we're going to talk about some of that today. You know, as I start the program, I always want to let you know, call up a friend, call up a neighbor, and tell them Facing the Nation is on. Share our page on Facebook. Of course, we're on the APNU AFC page, People's National Congress Reform page on Facebook, and of course, Channel 6. So call up somebody, let them know that we're on. And today is obviously going to be a very interesting day as we talk about and try to catch up on a lot of the issues that have occurred over the last 3 weeks heading into this week. So our conversation will be a very interesting one today. Before I get to the part where I introduce you to my guest, because I have a little video that I want to show before I bring the guest on so that we can talk about all the issues happening. Local government election ended last month. As we wrapped up to the end of last month, we had most of the results in, knowing that the APNU would have maintained and regained some of its strongholds, and did a very good job at the last local government election. And there were a series of thank yous happening throughout the country in those areas, going back to the people, ensuring that they thank them for going out for local government elections, and talking about the way forward as, of course, we begin to prepare for the regional and general elections whenever they are called. All right. So with that, last Sunday, the Georgetown team would have held their thank you, and they had a motorcade going through the city of Georgetown, and it ended with a rally at the square of at the Stabrook Market Square. So I would like to show a little clip there from that um, rally, and we will hear the leader's comments.
The other party, we will do the project and give you the policy that will put resources in your hands. We will, for instance, move the threshold for paying income tax to 150,000 dollars. What that means? What that means is that there will be more money in your pocket. But what we need is proper policies. I have said before, and I repeat it again tonight, that we will deal with the housing crisis in a number of ways. And one of them is that we will develop a rent-to-own program where we will build houses, allow our poor, ordinary people who cannot afford a house to pay a rent at a relatively low cost, and by the time they finish covering the money for the house will become theirs. That is what we need. Let me say this to you. About 16,000 children every year. They do the grade 6, or what some of y'all as old as you is going to come into. And when they do that grade 6 exam, by the time they leave Form 5, only about 10,000 children will get that CSC with math and English. What that means is about 11,000 children fall through the cracks every year. And this government stupidly celebrates the 1% that did extremely well and forget the 11,000. We are saying to you, we believe there is a place in this society for the children who might not be academic. It is our intention to re-establish night schools so our children who would have fallen out of school can go back to school and get a proper education. You now telling us you are going to bring nurses from overseas. The damn fools must know if they pay the nurses better, they will stay here. And we are saying to you that as a political party, we believe our workers must be properly treated. And I said before, and I repeat this evening, that we are going to do a survey to find out what is the minimum livable income our people need and ensure they get a minimum livable income. That's what our people want.
All right. Thank you. And as you were listening there, the leader of the opposition, leader of the PNCR, was talking about issues. We heard about, the nurses, etc., and the issues that are occurring, and, as well, the plans when they get into government, what will be done. Let me take this opportunity to bring my guest on, who is no stranger, of course, to facing the nation, especially when I'm going to deal with current issues, none other than Mr. Randolph Critchlow. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So, you're my go-to person when we're going to, dissect a lot of the issues that are happening. And as we know, currently, there's so many topics out there. A lot is happening. We are coming off of the local government election. We just had that thank you rally. And, your thoughts on the local government election.
No, so what can I say that hasn't been said already in the public space about the local government elections? We saw the plan of the PPP, and I believe that this is precursor to what will come 2025 or whenever the regional and general elections are called. But from the beginning, the APNU said that we are going to defend our strongholds. And I want to temper that because I remember the initial reactions the night of the results, the night of the elections, and Christopher Jones and I, we were here talking about the results coming in. And I warned our people that as the results come in, you will see Jack Dio jump on television claiming victory, how they won X amount of LAAs and all of these fancy things. And do not be dissuaded by that, because the reality is we competed in a fraction of those LEAs because it was a strategic approach to ensure that we hold on to our strongholds because we still have lots of contention with the voters list.
Correct.
Right. So I wanted people to understand that. And when you hear the PPP talking about 80 and the 160, how many, whatever it is, understand that the APNU only competed in a fraction of those. From those, we would have achieved our objectives.
Correct.
We held on to Georgetown. We held on to the Linden, New Amsterdam. You know, unfortunately, the situation in particular was tied, and of course, Madia. But the idea is, look, we are a party that is still here. We are strong. We will continue to fight for the people, and it really put a dent in the PPP's narrative of, oh, don't worry with the PNC, PNU. Oh, they're there, don't worry with them. And so the idea that, okay, this party that you're telling people is dead has beaten you convincingly in these areas speaks volumes. And I want to thank our people that came out to vote. You know, thank them and says, yes, we will continue to be here and let's move forward to 2025.
And one of the areas as well I like to talk about is the Buxton Falls area, where the APNU would have regained control of that NDC, which was something I know they worked hard on as well.
Definitely. I know you were sworn in, and you tell us about your NDC. I saw a big picture of you being sworn in.
Well, the NDC that I am a part of is the Better Hope LBI NDC. Understanding the area, Better Hope to LBI, it is a PPP stronghold. We had to do some serious work to ensure, one, that we kept our stronghold there as well, because our stronghold in that area is South Vicelas. And the PPP came out with a lot of tricks, even using and paying the brother of our candidate to run against him,
to confuse
which caused, a lot of rift. I mean, he looks just like him, etc. So there was a lot of things happening there, and of course, we were able to pull that off, and we have our 2 seats on that NDC currently.
Great.
And of course, there are a lot more inroads to be made. One of the things that I noted, and for the first time, dealing with that NDC in 3 local government elections, this is the first time in the PPP strongholds I've seen such low voters turnout. We had polling stations where 200 and something persons were to vote, and only 5 persons voted from 6 to 6. And I think that in itself tells of the way the government is even handling their so-called areas and the disdain by the persons within their very own communities. I've never seen it in the 2 previous local government elections. I've never seen such a low voters turnout in the PPP stronghold.
And the reality is that we as a people are still getting accustomed. We're fairly young. When you speak relatively, because we know there was a hiatus of about 20 years for local government elections. So there is a generation that has grown up without knowing anything about local government, right? There's a generation that grew up not knowing the importance of local government and what it means, this sense of community, and how it is that I, as an individual, can work as a part of this body to make changes in my community. And so I am happy that in 2015, we pushed to ensure that local government elections were brought back into the fold, and we saw an unprecedented amount of young people stepping up to the plate and being part of their local bodies and running for local government office in 2016 and then 2018. And so we hope that this continues, because I believe what is missing in our society is a sense of community. And people have become, through the 23 years of the PPP, people have grown to become more subjects instead of participants in the political structure. And so we just go along thinking, the government is the government. No, you have an active role to play in the improvements of your community. And so I am happy that there was so much energy around the local government elections.
And we have to keep that momentum,
Keep that
build
momentum.
for it, coming
Definitely.
into the general elections.
Mhm.
On that very note, one of the other things that I think is important for us to discuss, because one of the things you as well saw when you were campaigning and on the ground, is that because of the confusion you had when they had started that general registration process and then they stopped it.
Yeah.
There were a lot of persons who should have been on the list that were not on the list.
Mhm.
And what I want the public to know is that they have started the process of continuous registration.
Mhm.
So for those persons, especially the young persons who would have registered during that period and then realized in this local government election their names were not on the list, this is the time for you to visit your office, your GCOM office in your area and get registered. Continuous registration started on July 4th. There is no cutoff time as yet given for the continuous registration process. So we are encouraging, particularly young persons who are not on the list, if you're going to be 14 by December of this year, you as well can go and register. And for any other person, because you do find one and two persons who are much older that have never registered. And this is the time for you to ensure that you get registered as this process has started. Check for your GCOM offices in your areas. What I'll do next week, I'll have a big listing of those the offices throughout the country, and I will share it with my viewers because we need to take this serious. This is a part of steps that we have to take to ensure heading into the next election, not only a clean voters list and biometrics, but that those who are eligible are actually on the list of registration.
Yes. Definitely.
So I wanted to ensure the viewers understand that. The biggest issue in the town, I think we should get to that.
Yes.
Now, I haven't talked about this on my program at any point so far. As I said, we were off for 3 weeks, now coming back. And there is the issue of Darmlal, who was accused of raping an underage child. And this story is now unfolding in so many ways. What we saw were protests, action being held, asking for him to be fired or resign and, basically demit office and to be charged. At this current time, all we have is so-called a resignation, I can say, because you had yesterday in Parliament
Someone being sworn in.
someone being sworn in to take his seat in Parliament. So we know he's also out of Parliament in that regard. But the part that we are all awaiting is for him to be charged, where we seem to have issues. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't expect him under this current administration to be charged. We've already seen the signs that the DPP has said there is no case here. We've seen the attempts to manipulate the system and get the girl to recant on her statement. And we saw a video recently of her saying that it was quote unquote no sex. She never at any point in time said, and smartly so, whoever prepared the speech for her didn't allow her to say that she was not raped, because that would contradict what she said before.
Yes, correct.
And so we in Guyana are being subjected to a level of foolishness that is unprecedented that I will say. And I like to approach this from a few angles. This story has played out on a few different tracks. If we had to look at it from the president's standpoint, because I don't believe that the president is on the same page with a number of the people who are pulling the strings in this story, you know, vis-a-vis the vice president.
Yeah.
So his standpoint and the fact that he has come out of this looking so weak, coming to the people of Guyana to say that the minister has
Step down.
no, he has decided to go and leave first of all, and then coming back to say that the minister has decided that he will resign, and not covering himself in any glory and any sort of strength, any positional strength, to saying, look, this is what I have asked the minister to because of X, Y, Z. Then you have the set of people who are Dharmlal sympathizers and defenders, right, who may be in a different faction of the party than the president, who were insisting, based on the information we're getting from the back channel, that listen, the man must stay. And they would do anything at this point in time to kind of absolve him of any blame and to prove that he is innocent in this. And of course, you have the young lady and her family who are caught in the middle of all of this. And I can imagine at this point, and this is why a lot of it we can't necessarily put on her.
Yes, I agree.
All right, because she is caught in the middle of whatever her family is being offered, whatever the pressures are being put on them, and she has to now just go with the flow because we've seen her. And I think this is an important point to me. I think that there are attempts being made, and these are, but this again, this is my own opinion here, that there are attempts being made on the part of those who want to make Dharmlal seem innocent in this thing, to cast this girl in a light that here what she is flip-flopping. She doesn't have any integrity. She is saying one thing and then telling us something else another time. And I think they have done that to some degree in the public to make her seem as unreliable. And so this latest attempt, and let me just put a bow on this now. This latest attempt to try and say to the people of Guyana who have followed this thing from the beginning. And again, I ain't even talk about those persons, those activists, and the Amerindian Association, the media, the opposition, who came to bat for this young lady. They have all been going on the evidence provided. Not just hearsay, actual evidence provided through the police investigation, the DPP, all of these different things. And now we have a situation where the young lady is put in a position where she has to go back to her statement and say, listen, I don't know what y'all are talking about. And then that is followed by tapes of her saying to people, this is what I want to do, I will write it, this is what I feel. And so, you know, and finally, before I let you come in, because I know you're itching to deal with this, I want to say to the people out there, that if we are supposed to believe this story, that the girl has come forward in this final tape and said nothing happened, it means, therefore, that the PPP government, this government that is in charge of our oil money, that is in charge of the whole country, has allowed their minister of local government and regional development to go on administrative leave, to be arrested, to pay $1 million bail, to be investigated, to resign in a hail of public shame, all because of a fake post or a fake profile. This is if we are to believe what the young lady has said. And that tells me that, listen, if you can allow that to happen to your minister from a fake post and a fake profile, you should not be running the country. And so that's it's just a bizarre series of events.
For me, this situation, especially the turn it has took recently, it's just one hot, crazy mess to me in any form. Because personally, I believe that under no circumstance anybody should want this young lady to speak for or against them at this point with everything that is happening. And I took note to a lot of the things that were said. Because for me, I know there is a part where she actually says, oh, this doesn't happen, it didn't happen or whatever. but every other part of her statement suggests that it did happen. For instance, she said she would have hoped that the entire situation died when he would resign. So why, if none of this ever happened, were you hoping for somebody to resign from their office if it never happened? And that in itself tells me that there is a conflict in everything that is being said. And I believe, by no means will I say that the PPP is any kind of credible government. And at this point, I am extremely disappointed as a woman in all of the female executive representatives of the PPP, particularly the member of parliament reps in that party, who, as this entire thing has unfolded, literally said nothing. Understanding that a matter of this nature that has received this kind of exposure, the effects that it can have not just on this issue and their minister then, their former minister, but rather on other victims, even coming forward with similar claims, or the seriousness of this thing. And I've said before that I know that certain factions of the PPP don't see rape as serious, because I do remember, and I like to talk about it as we talk about this situation. We had the Minister of Education shouting rape in the parliament in a situation that had nothing to do, and I thought it then to be disrespectful to the women who have experienced rape, even in that context. And now we're here watching this unfold, and nobody says anything. Nobody necessarily offers any help to this young lady. And I see even on Facebook there's a lot of bashing happening of the young lady, or they're pulling back the claims and whatever. But I want people to bear in mind, this is a young woman who is coming under the weight of a government who has money and power on their side currently. And a situation where we already know what is happening with her family in this situation. So by no means is she going through anything easy. And understanding even the psychology of somebody who has experienced this kind of situation, it can be nothing easy. And I brought the example after this video. Some of us would have experienced less under the government and are afraid to speak out.
Exactly.
You had thousands of workers being fired between 2020 to 2022. And not a single one of them, for nothing at all in a lot of instances.
They were afraid.
For nothing at all did they come out even with a family member to protest the government. And now you are speaking in a situation like this and judging a child in this nature. But I want Guyanese to take away from this, and I believe it is opportune time to push pressure, not just for Darmlal to be charged in this instance, because if I were him and I was innocent, I would have rather a case be put forward and my name is cleared. But outside of Darmlal being charged, this entire government needs to go home. If this is the one single situation that as well has shown the level of incompetence, discrimination, victimization by this government,
manipulation of the system,
and manipulation, importantly, of every system in place to protect persons and victims, this situation has shown that. And for that alone, and none of them standing up to it, the entire government needs to go home.
I don't think that we can judge the PPP with any metric that has to do with shame. They have none of that. They don't. So I want to say this. You made some good points there about the when the girl mentioned that she thought that it would have gone away when he resigned. But if you go back to the recordings that Melly Mel would have released, she did say that, look, she just wants to take him down. And so that resignation would have been a point, well, I have achieved my objective here.
Yes.
And so that's why she would,
I would feel pleased if
right.
that's all that
And she
happened.
thought everything would have gone quiet because now he's
Yes.
taken down.
Yeah.
No, we in Guyana, we've discussed this issue at nauseum. And I think we've overlooked the legal side of it. Right? There are a lot of legal implications here in that, you know, as I said, the government allowed all of this to happen. You've got to be the most incompetent government to allow all this to happen to your minister. And whoever the handlers are, who is the connection between the government and this girl, purportedly, who prepared this statement, you know, just giving this issue life and bring more information into the fore now. But I want to deal with something that we have not talked about. We, as reprehensible and as dastardly and as you know, crazy and all of the nasty words we can find, we see this issue as in terms of rape and sodomy and all these things. We have to understand that this is a nuanced situation in a lot of these indigenous communities where families are exposed to poverty and it can be influenced by some monies and things. And, you know, I'm not saying that this is the case now, but I'm saying we have to view these things through the lens of a different socio-economic situation. And, you know, speaking to people from those areas, they say, you know, a lot of these things happen. And so we might be viewing this thing and we get so angry about it. But in a lot of the cases, because they are so inert and so it has become so normalized, they might not treat it with such ire and such wrath as we might deal with it. And so a lot of the times we have to think about a lot of different situations. My takeaway from this is that we have a government that is willing to trample on the rights of a young indigenous girl and her family to ensure that a government minister who has over the years displayed his willingness to be disrespectful,
lewd.
crass, lewd, he is obviously someone who does not respect women. He is someone who does not respect rules, and he has caused them before public embarrassment.
The dildo situation.
And they have decided that, hey, what, we are going to go to bat for him and trample on the rights and manipulate the government system, as you said, to ensure that he comes out looking better than this young lady. And that is what Guyanese need to take away from this. That this government in place is willing to do that to a little girl. And I don't know if persons know, but I listened to this young lady in the conversation that she had with Melly Mel. Unscripted, extremely intelligent,
Definitely.
fluent, articulate, use of words. She is obviously a brilliant child. And I was made aware that when the APNU was in power, we actually highlighted this young lady as one of the bright young people coming out of the indigenous community, right? Because there was obviously a recognition that this young lady is something to look for in the future. And look at what would have happened now under this administration. We had a minister whose job it is to go into these communities
And protect.
Yep. And so we need to keep that in mind, that, and I think Guyanese will remember this. Guyanese should remember this. When the roll is called in 2025, that this is a government that was willing to do this to a young Amerindian girl.
And who else when they do it?
Exactly.
They've shown us over and over again that they're willing to trample on the lives of any Guyanese to accomplish their mission.
Yeah.
And, you know, to bring in, even with this situation and what is happening in our indigenous community, we saw as well, because I want us to talk a little about what happened in Parliament, but I want to bring this Madia dorm fire situation back as we link them, because one of the things that I say the government is extremely disrespectful to the indigenous people and community. And not to say they're not disrespectful to every other race in this country, but particularly what we're seeing currently with the harsh situations that would have met these areas. The Madhya Dam fire, 60 days now, I believe it is, they would have promised to have a commission of inquiry into this incident. We saw a story coming out where the waste or the remains from the building being used to
fill
potholes in the community. And, the fact that the president came out I think it was a Tuesday, and said by weekend he will name the members of the commission. And then instead of doing that, the following Monday, he said to the nation that he will be giving $5 million per life for those 20 young persons, 19 young girls and 1 young guy, for their lives. $5 million to compensate those families. I don't know what more we as Guyanese need to see to understand that this government has no good intentions for this country.
I want to see this. One of our MPs, Amanzo Wharton, is here, who is the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, refer to the PPP government as, in relation to their foreign policy, as being very transactional. I want to take that further. I said the PPP is very transactional in general. We saw this in the local government. Come, we will give you contracts, you vote for us. Let's have this transaction. Come, we give you $40,000, you vote for us. Transactional. They have taken that into every aspect of governance. They see the Amerindian people as a group that they can go close the election and they can buy. They can go in there with some monies and say, listen, in Region 1, the PPP went in and they gave out 400 part-time jobs to Amerindian people. They won the region by about 90 votes. No, the particular LLA, one particular LLA by 90 votes. They decided here, we're going to have a transaction with these people. We're going to go give them these part-time jobs and encourage them to vote for us. Let's have this quick pro quo. This is the same approach that they took with the Madhya tragedy. Today is 60 days since that tragedy happened and no commission of inquiry. Now remember, commission of inquiry, at the end of it, you will be able to point fingers. You will be able to say, these are the areas where the system failed, where the personnel failed, where the administration failed, and hence X, Y, Z persons or institutions could be held accountable.
And what steps?
Liable. They were negligent. And so the PPP could not impanel this COI because they had to sort themselves out first and protect and insulate the government. And so what they went about doing was taking the same approach as they do everything else, a transaction. They went quietly to these families and said, here, we will offer you $5 million. Now, $5 million, let's just deal with that. And for this $5 million, these are the things that you can and cannot do. If you'd offer them $5 million and then that's just a one-off payment, but you can come after the commission of inquiry and sue us and claim for more, that's a different thing. But you offered us this $5 million, you're saying that the families had independent legal advice. We don't know that.
We don't know that because they said that about the young lady in the situation
exactly.
with Darm Lab.
Now, you go to these families, lots of them, I'm sure, poor families. You say to them, take this 5 million and sign here. You're signing, and the terms of that agreement says you cannot appeal for anything else.
Yeah.
And so if the commission of inquiry, when it's in panel, whenever it is, finds that the government has been grossly negligent and they're liable, there is nothing that these families can do.
After that.
And so they have insulated themselves from any further action and any further claims by these families by offering them these things. And we don't know if the families understood the terms of those agreements. And so this is the government. This is a transaction for y'all to stay quiet. And then the attorney general comes on television and tells the Guyanese people, and I say to myself, you have to have some sort of level of power drunkenness, level of power intoxication. They have imbibed and they have drunk the liqueur of power so much that the attorney general could come on television and say, you ought to be complimenting us that we didn't have to give these people anything. You are the government. These people died. These children died when they were in the custody of the care and custody of the government. And you're going to tell Guyanese people we had to give them anything and we should compliment y'all for giving them 25,000 US?
That, for the disrespect.
And that is a level of where we are with these people. I think they are so far in their head in terms of the power that they don't care what they do at this point in time. And so these families now have to take that. And mind you, it's not only the victims, the persons that died, this is all of the victims of the fire. If you were injured also, you're getting this 5 million. Now imagine you are injured to the extent that you can't work and it affects your future employment. And you $5 million. That you take that and go in your corner. Now we as Guyanese have to look at other cases around the world where governments were liable and had to pay. And this little pittance. Folks, we are in a sad state in this country.
We are. And to further push this, when you have these two issues, yesterday in Parliament, I, in layman's terms, from my little and minimum understanding of what happened in terms of that the financial papers, is that the government was basically, through the carbon fund, requesting monies, in my view, to bribe the indigenous people. I think the timing of this is extremely important. And there is a reason they went yesterday, the day after we even saw that video. I think all of these things are, aligned and related. So now we got her to say, all of this thing was nonsense. Now I come to Parliament and get the money to go back into their communities because, the ministers took the time. They didn't tell us how they're getting it, what will be done with the monies, nothing of that nature. They have no plan. Nothing could have been provided yesterday in Parliament, but we know that they're going to get that money. And all they can tell us is the names of the communities that will get it. And that's the end of that. I say it is a further bribe to the indigenous people with all of these matters being, that we're seeing happening in their communities currently.
Yeah. And I think that the indigenous community, the people are recognizing that this government intends to continue down this road of just offering them some money to keep them quiet.
And treating them badly.
And so, 5 million is a hush money. Yeah, it is a hush money at the end of the day, right? And as you spoke about the video, one thing that we forgot to talk about the video, the video was obviously prepared by some political person to serve a political purpose because it was it was filled with political rhetoric.
Parliamentary language, particularly.
Exactly. Untruths.
Untruths. And that one stood out to me because, in Parliament as it stands right now, there are a lot of words you can't use. So when you're going to speak in Parliament, there are a lot of things that you have to dance around. You can't say lie in Parliament. I mean, a regular person would have just said lied about instead you had the parliamentary term being used, untruth.
Yep.
So those things stood out to me particularly in that video.
Attacking the APA, attacking the
opposition.
Oh,
everybody that is the government feels offended by.
Yeah, the activists.
You are all of a sudden attacking the persons, and you see it. I personally feel like the PVV is getting dumber by the second, in my view, because in my view, my personal opinion, it's in my mind, this was prepared by somebody of the government. And I'm saying this because at the end of it, you would have attacked even the persons who came to your rescue.
Yeah.
Everybody who came to your rescue in this matter, you attack. But all these persons as well are persons who made the government uncomfortable.
Right.
What you're trying to tell
Exactly.
We beg and we have sense, man.
Yeah. They couldn't help themselves, if whoever prepared the statement couldn't help themselves but to knock the opposition and knock the Amerindian People Association and knock the activists. So, that is very, very obvious as to what played out there.
That being said, there are a lot of other issues. I feel we're almost out of time, but there are two issues that I really feel that we must touch on. Now, there is this issue where the government and the president in his speech would have said that he will be importing labor for nurses into the country. This happening on a backdrop where the very government closed the nursing school, one in Linden. And we have many issues currently, even at the nursing school in Georgetown. Persons are complaining about the selection process and they're feeling, they're being victimized even in the process of even applying to get into the nursing school. We have the issues of payment. The government came in, the very Ifernali who was so enthusiastic and carry on at Parliament while they were in opposition that, they will pay the nurses and the policemen and everybody these fantastic wages and raised by 50%, etc. And they have not, in their 3 years to date, done anything that is consequential in those areas, and more so for the nurses. And you, instead of getting your schools up and running, paying the nurses better wages to ensure, because we know unemployment is high in Guyana. And, we're not doing anything to fix the issue at home, but you were readily telling us, one, that you're going to import them, you don't care, there was no policy related, any, communication with persons, the feelings, etc. on this matter, you're importing. And then to tell us as well in that same space that our children have to learn Spanish. It is compulsory. I sometimes wonder where did Ifernali do any form of schooling? Because I recall even at primary level, when we were finished writing common entrance for that 1 year, Spanish was compulsory. We did Spanish then at primary school. Into secondary school, you did it at least for the first 2 years. You do it for the first 2 years as compulsory, and then you can decide based on your performance in it.
And you're streaming where you're in. So,
and these are issues. Let's talk about it, the nursing issue.
On the issue of the nurses, giving teachers, nurses, public servants, civil servants more money is of no benefit to the PPP. There's no kickbacks to be had there.
True.
And so what we are seeing is a result of an economic model that says invest at the top in infrastructure and big business and hope that it trickles down. Trickle down economics. And so what we have in Guyana is a situation where teachers, nurses, police, these civil and public servants, all of the people that keep the engine, the bureaucracy of the public service running, are deciding every day that they will go and make life somewhere else that is paying them more. Because this government, emboldened with oil money, has said very clearly to the people of Guyana through their actions that they are not first priority.
Correct.
Human resource development and investment in social services is not their first priority. Their budget allocations indicate that to you. You invest billions more in infrastructure. Ensure that you loosen up restrictions for business so you can bolster your friends and family and favorites. And so you hope that now that money trickles down. The infrastructure is to ensure infrastructure allows you to siphon off. And the report that says
lots of money.
Right, the report that says that we lose almost 40%, 40 cents on every dollar to corruption. And this comes through a lot of infrastructure, contracts and works, and roads, all of these things. This is where the money is siphoned off. And so you have a government that is committed. They are firmly committed to that economic model. And there's nothing that you can tell them right now. They ain't gonna get up today after 3 years of spending our oil money and decide, oh, let's invest in our teachers. Oh,
no
let's
human
invest.
resource.
No.
It's not important.
Let's invest in our nurses. No, let's ensure that our public servants are paid properly. They're going to come in the year of elections and offer you a big money and a one-off payment in hoping that they will go on this, because again, as I mentioned earlier, they have a very transactional view of governance.
Correct.
In that we can come at the last hour and give you some money, and because a lot of our people, our Guyanese people, have been acculturated over the 23 years with a hustle mentality, a cash in hand mentality. They say, all right, look, hold a 40, hold a 50,000, hold a 15%, right? Hold us back to school cash grant.
I don't ever think that happened in election year. The PPP does not know double figures.
I am telling you, they're going to come. This oil money is going to allow them to give the people.
It should have allowed them to do that from the very
and
start.
3 years, they only got 7%.
Correct.
So, but I'm telling you, this is their mentality and they're not going to change. And people are going to realize, people are starting to realize, and Guyanese are speaking out daily, that from 2020 to now, every time you open the papers, there's a new oil find, there is a new deal, there are people smiling in suits, shaking hands with billion-dollar deals. Some new building go up that some government minister own, whilst you go in your fridge and you can't figure out how to send your children to school with some snack tomorrow.
Correct.
And your life is not improving. And the people of Guyana have realized that this is the rules. This is what the PPP is.
You know, one of the things, every time you see the operation of the PPP is zero plans. They plan for nothing. They have no policy.
You don't need to plan when I could come and give people money and make them vote for me. How you plan?
I'm watching the new road as you head from the let me not call it that, the roundabout with that bird.
Jumpy bird turner.
The jumpy bird turner. You're heading there, and they would have built that entire area there, going well, the road is there. And 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, they decided that they're going to open another slot where apparently they just figured out I can fix a piece of road coming from, it's probably Houston area or echoes the earlier part. And now the nice thing that they already did, they just break it up to now prepare for a passage a few meters away from another opening. But I am observing that on the other end of that, there is a big business being put up on the corner there. And I'm believing that it is done to facilitate whoever is placing a business there. And this is the operation of the government all the time. They do one thing, or there is a plan setting, and then they come midway and decide that I'm going to spend a couple $1 million more to just do something else because I can. And it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this is why we're finding the issues, and more you see the government showing that this country is a business for them. It's nothing about the people. It's nothing about taking care of the important aspects of the country, because we've seen what the government running an appeal to basically fight against the benefit of their people. If all of these things that we have spoke about today, in addition to that, shows you the government sees this country as just a piece of business for them.
Business transaction. But I will say this. I personally know 9 healthcare workers, not only nurses, maybe doctors and lab assistants and stuff, that left Guyana in the last year to go take up jobs in the UK and Canada. 9. I know 9 people. And that is multiplied by, I'm sure there are people watching now that know of nurses and teachers and doctors that have left this country. The other day I was watching a TikTok video where the man was asking the top 5 countries, the populations of New York, with one of the top 5 countries that people come from, foreigners. Guyana was number 5. Guyana is the number 5 country in terms of the population in New York. Our people are leaving. The issue is here, and the PPP continues to demonstrate that they do not care about the average man. If the APNU, I want to remind people that the APNU AFC in 3.5 years, not even 5, 3.5 years, raised the minimum wage 77%.
3.5 years.
Without oil money.
Zero.
The APNU AFC, let me repeat that, in 3.5 years, without oil money, raised the minimum wage by 77%. This government, flush with oil money.
In 3 years.
In 3 years. Where has it gone? And of course, we are now facing unprecedented inflation and food prices.
Nothing
right?
like
They have nothing to turn to. Even the ex-minister Damlal, what does he have to turn to? In 3 years, we would have set up 4 tongues. 4 new tongues under the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development under Minister Bulkan and the leadership of David Granger. Damlal can't tell you which tongue he set up. What has he done?
What we know under his ministry, the Madhya fire dorms, we lost 20 lives.
Exactly.
And we had many more fires on.
And going into the regions to do nonsense.
Correct.
This is the legacy of the PVP.
Correct. We are basically out of time today, but just before our last 5 minutes, just wrapping up quickly, the government is finally, I should say, issued a statement about the issue of dengue becoming as almost like, an outbreak, because especially in the Georgetown East Coast, over the river area, there have been lots of cases of dengue. They're also reporting malaria. But what we do not see is any fogging happening. I mean, it is serious for me because I have seen lots of persons around me of recent falling ill with symptoms that start out as flu-like fevers and then they get tested for dengue, typhoid, and all these different things. And you go to the hospitals, all of the hospitals are overrun with these cases. The government has not yet sat down with the population and say to us they're analyzing or they're seeing this, what must be done. And, for me, it's worrying because I know how many persons I've seen having these issues. And even I have seen at least 3 persons of recent that I've known have died because of this, whatever is happening in the public system currently. And we don't have anything being talked about in this regard.
Well, I will say that there was fogging in my area.
You had fogging.
Right. Yeah.
On the East Coast, as thus far, I haven't heard from, at least from industry, going all the way up to about Ansgrove, Ansgrove thereabout. We've heard of no fogging as yet in those areas, and I hope they ramp that up. And not just the fogging, there needs to be programs that help people to understand what are the risks involved during this time. Because one of the things that I've learned, because I have been dealing with persons dealing with it, is that ibuprofen with these symptoms, you shouldn't take it currently unless you know and you get tested and you ensure you don't have dengue, because apparently the ibuprofen, according to the doctors, are making it worse if you do. And we need to see more programs like these. No public education. What is the vector unit of the Ministry of Health doing? No programs.
I see Uncle Frank come out and said that they're continuing to give nets in the interior areas for the malaria, and but I do agree with you. There is much more.
To be a ramp up.
Much more needs to be done to educate and inform people about what is happening in terms of the health sector. And again, we continue to say that this is the government that said to people that they can manage, and they can't seem to manage their way out of a paper bag at this moment. In every sector, you see this. Every sector.
All right, Randolph, we're basically out of time. I just want to give you a minute or a minute and a half. If there is anything else that you want to make clear as we end this conversation today, of course, we'll have you here again as we continue.
What I want to leave with our viewers, the people of Guyana, is I am sure that you have recognized over the last 3 years that this government that came in was installed when Guyana was on a transition. And they have taken our oil money and they have done nothing for you. Absolutely nothing, because you can't come to us and tell us, oh, they did a road. The APNUFC did many roads without oil money. And we need to seriously consider what this government has done in 3 years. As we go into the election year, all they have managed to do is to siphon off some money to give one-off cash grants and election bribes. And our lives have not improved in any significant manner in 3 years. And we need to call them out on it. We need to call them out on it, and we need to remember, and we need to form our opinions as we move into an election and ensure that we go out and we encourage our friends and family that it is important, it's an imperative that we put the APNU AFC back to manage the resources of this country, and let us put the country back on the path of true development, not development for some, true development. And that's what I want to leave you. Let us be very critical and very strategic in our thinking and analyze what is happening in the country. And we'll make a smart decision come election time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Critchlow, for joining me today. I want to remind our viewers that the things that we keep discussing and what we're doing cannot be done by just sitting in our living rooms, talking about it, watching at programs. We want to implore citizens to join us in this fight. And, when we have protests, when, for instance, every Tuesday we're out there in front of GCOM from 12 to 1 o'clock. Join us if you can. For those of you who have a little lunch break and you're not afraid to come out and join us for the hour. And let us ensure that this government understands that we will not continue to sit back and take the level of disrespect that they have been given to the people of Guyana, and that we are willing to see the changes that are necessary in this country. So I want to implore my viewers to come out, to stand up with us in whatever way form it comes, to help us to get this country back to where it needs to be. In stating that, just before we close off, I want to let our viewers know that the People's National Congress Reform on the 5th of August will be holding what they're calling the Big People Party in collaboration with the New York branch of the PNCR. And, we're inviting persons to come out and support these activities, so that we can continue to build and, get the necessary resources to push this fight forward as we go. So the 5th of August, right at Congress Place, there is that party coming up, the Big People Party. So we're asking that you come out and support.
Well, Shaneika, you can't go. You're not big people yet.
So you'll be seeing the videos for the Big People Party, flyers around, hearing about it. Tell a friend, tell somebody, and come out and support the event and any other event being held, so that we can do what we must. I want to thank you once again for joining Facing the Nation today, and do join me next week for sure. I have a very special guest next week as we continue the conversation. Do have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.
'Cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice bread, not one garage, not a bit of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo. Take time on night, though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it, we have that right. So we ain't giving up no more, we ain't giving up, we ain't giving up no, we ain't giving up.
Send them information, keep them updated and help.